Good day, ladies and gentlemen. With a new Jurassic Park movie on the horizon, it's time to take a look back at the early 90s. There was a game released for the Sega Genesis, and that game was considered the greatest Jurassic Park game of all time. Well, is it? Or is it just more 90s dross? Well, let's fire up RetroArch, get them save states ready, and let's find out if Jurassic Park Genesis truly is the greatest of all Jurassic Park games.
Jurassic Park was developed by Blue Sky and published by for the Sega Genesis and released on August 10th, 1993 in North America, just a couple months after the North American release of the movie. Games moved fast in those days, and it's quite remarkable just how good a job Blue Sky did. Blue Sky Software themselves got their start in 1988 and made games for the Atari 7800, including the hilarious Ninja Golf. And after Jurassic Park, they made a few notable titles, such as this game's sequel and the Vector Man games. They would eventually close shop in 2001 due to their parent company, Titus Interactive, going under. And yes, Titus Interactive, the people behind the absolutely abhorrent, abysmal Superman 64. That's right, Blue Sky was owned by the same guys that gave us the wonder of Superman 64 and that craptacular RoboCop game. No wonder they went under. They should have used their talent better. It's amazing that the parent company made some of the worst games ever, had top flight talent like Blue Sky on the bloody payroll, and chose not to use them. In any event, the 90s was an experimental time for gaming. Remember, games as a concept had only been around since arguably 1971, so developers were still playing around with what a game even was. Developing games was no easy feat either, and you had to be very good at your craft to get anything workable in a reasonable amount of time. Not only that, but game development is much an art as a science, and many games in the 90s had the unfortunate issue of being great in concept, but not so great at execution. When we look back at games from the 90s, only the most exceptional are still worth playing today. And that's because a great many were either slapped together for a deadline, were incompetently developed in the first place, or worst of all, developed by inexperienced developers. Yeah, many devs really didn't know what they were doing. Sure, they could program well enough, but they didn't know what made games actually fun. As kids, we played what we got and made do, but today, with the benefit of choice and hindsight, we can see a lot of games for what they were. And sadly, most games of the 90s would be found wanting. I played Jurassic Park on Sega Genesis once in the 1990s and never even came close to getting off the first level. Years later, I would get into software emulation and download the game, and I never even got close to getting off the first level. But I had nostalgia for it, and thus I bought a real copy for my Sega Genesis Model 1. Gotta love that stereo. Popped it in, and never even came close to getting off that first level. And after that, I just kind of forgot about it, until one day I needed to record gameplay for a Jurassic Park book review. I actually put forth the effort, used a bunch of save states, and not only got off the first level, but finished the whole bloody game. And what I found was a true gem of the 90s. The game is a side-scrolling action game. The controls are laid out sensibly, and while the game does suffer from slowdown here and there, your jumps are precise, and you can pretty much always hit your enemies with your weapons at any angle. You have two characters to choose from, Alan the Dino Digger Grant and Rory the Big One Raptor. Both control well, and you get 7 levels for Grant and 5 levels for Rory. Both characters will have a very generous health bar and 3 lives. The thing that separates this game from the lion's share of early 90s games is the fact that you could play the bloody thing. Many games in the early 90s had that shit-tacular lives and continue system, or they had lives and no continues, or they had like 1 life and no way to save, despite the fact that passwords as a concept dated back to the late 80s. Well, what we got in this game is a well-designed password system that features just a small number of inputs, and this allows you to get right back into the game, and the game will give you a password right after you finish a level, so you don't have to hunt them down outside of the game, which in 93 would have been virtually impossible for a kid to do. Not only do you have a bunch of health to begin with, but Good Guy Jurassic Park gives you a bunch of health kits throughout each level. Grant has a massive arsenal of less than lethal weapons to preserve the massive dollar value of the dinosauruses. You always have plenty of darts, and you never find yourself being screwed by limited ammo. Rory B. Raptor has access to a bunch of attacks: a bite, a claw swipe, and a pounce. Grant is pretty decent at jumping, and Rory is very good at jumping. They're astonishing jumpers. And both characters can mantle up ledges. However, Jurassic Park screwed you by giving you fall damage and a side-scrolling platformer? Come on! And it gets worse. If you fall too far, you will fall right off the screen. Screw you, game! And it gets worse. There were instant death pits all throughout the game. Oh, I'm warming up that quick save key. And then we got the environmental challenges, and these are instant deaths too. Quick save. Despite all that, the game is still pretty fair, and with 3 lives and passwords, it is conceivable that some kids might actually have been able to beat the game back in the day. As the difficulty curve is not too bad, this game is a breeze compared to those Super Star Wars ball crushers, and Batman NES makes this game look so easy that even a journo can beat it. What I'm getting around to is that this game is actually fun and not a super huge challenge that you have to really want to finish. Oh, and this game only has 2 bits of retro jank at the very end of the game. If you want to try getting into retro games, or if you've not played a good 16-bit game in a while, I say give this game a try in RetroArch and see why the 90s could give us some great fun. Now, graphically, we got a great looking game here. The sprites are all well detailed, and they have some very nice animations. The backgrounds are filled with great details, and the game never gets boring to look at. Sound is also pretty good, and the various dino sounds are right, and Grant's is really bloody hilarious. The music is pretty good and is fairly memorable and can be listened to outside of the game, although the soundtrack to this game's sequel is superior. Jurassic Park the game, like so many games of its era, is not a one-to-one recreation of the movie, but it's closer than most and mixed some of the Jurassic Park novel with an early draft of the movie's script. You play as Alan Grant, and in a really cool cutscene for 1993, the T-Rex, like an asshole, attacks your Jeep, and then somehow your Jeep turns into a Ford Explorer, and in a way similar to the novel, he bites the car and then throws it into Jurassic Park, whereupon it turns back into a Jeep. Whatever. Now, you gotta go through 7 levels to escape Jurassic Park. Level 1, she is a harsh mistress. In the first 2 seconds, you gotta fight a Triceratops. This is a callback to the movie where the first dino you see is a Triceratops. This level is a passage that preys upon the weak. The game will not tell you what to do, and you will die a lot, or just reload the save till you figure it out. Hold down on the D-pad to see what is directly below you to avoid the bottomless pits. You slide down this rock wall, avoid the rock fall, and give another trike some Tears for Fears. And you are done. Next is the power station. This level is a whole lot easier as there are no bottomless pits. And when the T-Rex attacks, give him some tear gas to the face. Next is the river level. This is straight out of the book. Although, now Grant works alone and has no kids to deal with. This level can be tough as you die the instant you hit the water, and you gotta pay special attention to the waterfalls as you navigate the river. There will be a few jank segments where you have to jump off the boat, and the game never tells you this, so until you figure that out, you will just die endlessly. Bloody 90s. Once you make it down the waterfalls, you gas another trike, and it's time to go into the worst level in the game. The sewer level, ladies and gentlemen. Bottomless pits abound. There are ledges that you have to grab onto that aren't obvious at all, and you'll just find yourself trying to jump across a gap and hope you can make it, and you never do. Just reload that save until you figure it out. Next is the canyon, and it's pretty easy. Next, you go into an active volcano. This is a remarkably easy level, and this is remarkably tenuous to the novel, where Grant and a few other characters go into a cave to gas a raptor nest that is in a volcanic region of the island, but they never actually go into an actual volcano. And I gotta wonder, like, what are the dinosaurs eating in there? Why aren't they, like, burning up? Whatever. Finally, you make it to the visitor center. What's funny is that the game story, while just simple text, gets less and less serious as you play the game, and it says that the Raptors have a bone to pick with you, and I just realized that this might be a hint to finish the game. So, you fight some Raptors and make it to the end of the game. Now, all throughout this game, you have been shooting Raptors in the face with your dart gun, and that, in and of itself, is a callback to the book where Grant does indeed shoot a juvenile Raptor with a dart gun. But now the game will not let you kill him. You can shoot him all you want. You can chuck grenades at him all you want. It'll do nothing. So, do you want to know how to beat the game? Well, you see, what you gotta do is, you fall between these two skeletons, and then throw the grenades to the left and right, and then the dino skeletons fall on the Raptors. And, well, at least good guy Jurassic Park gave you some grenades before this fight, but still, this is utter bullshit. There needs to be something to let the player know that you had to throw grenades in exactly the right area to beat the game. The Raptors having a bone to pick with you doesn't really tell you that you need to do all that. I bet so many kids were left despondent by this bloody 90s jank. This is one of those things that is jank because the devs were getting creative. This shit is due to the devs wanting to have the game end like an early draft of the movie. And in this early draft of the movie, Grant brought down the dino skeletons on the Raptors. Number one, I am so glad they changed that, as that would have been a massive anticlimax. And two, really, come on, Blue Sky, you were doing so well. Just let Grant kill the T-Rex in an epic rock-off and then end the bloody game? I know that this is a movie tie-in game, but come on, that's sticking way too close to a lame-ass ending. And even Grant seems baffled. Just look at his sprite. Dunno, mate, I just work here. But yeah, despite all that, this is a really fun game once you get the hang of it. It's all doable and all fun. The Raptor campaign, while shorter, is still pretty great. Level 1 is in the jungle, and it's still a ball buster. Level 2 is a little easier. Level 3 is the bloody sewer level over again, and it's utter shit. Literally, as there are platforms that you have to land on, and those platforms are the same bloody color as the background. Thanks, Blue Sky! We got the canyon level again, and it's fine. And finally, the visitor center. Watch out for the guards in the vents. They hurt. And then finally, you face off against Grant. For some reason, the big one really has a hate-on for Grant, gets his scent, and won't stop stalking him. Well, as a final boss, Grant shouts, "Get out of here, stalker!" and is bad ass and seems unbeatable, and is, until you look up a walkthrough and find that you have to hit this one block of stone to bring down the skeleton, and then Grant runs off and you just stand there like a dumbass, and then the Raptor escapes to the mainland just like some Raptors in the book. That ending is still bullshit though. Just let the Raptor take a bite out of Grant. Rory is some great chaotic fun and is a great compliment to the Grant campaign. Jurassic Park the game would go on to sell a shit ton of copies and be one of the better movie tie-in games of the 90s. And in general, it gets what made the novel and movie great. It has you play as both the protagonist and the villain of the movie, and its areas are recognizable to the novel and the movie. Lastly, despite the jank at the end, this is a game a person could realistically finish thanks to the levels being short and the passwords being easy to input. This was some fine gaming in 1993.
Jurassic Park is one of the few early 90s games that actually matches the nostalgia that people have for it. It is able to capture what made Jurassic Park great, and it gives you a pretty fun experience. Now, if you're an OG 90s gamer and you haven't played this game since 1995, well, I say give it a try, and especially if you haven't beaten it, give it another try, because it's definitely a gaming experience worth having. And so, I am General Lotz, wishing you good Castlevania 4 and good Wings 2 Aces High, or whatever makes you happy.
If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and please consider leaving a like or a comment, as the algorithm desires your soul. And I want to thank all those fans who have supported this channel, both past and present.